Good evening, and thank you to Alan Ferdman and the Canyon Country Advisory Committee, all of the members of the board that work so hard to put this on each year. And most importantly, thank you to the audience that came out this evening, that felt it was important enough to come out and educate yourselves on the candidates before you vote. I think that is the best part about this particular forum. I'm going to introduce myself, although most of you know who I am. I'm TimBenBoydston. I've been in Santa Clarita about 40 years that I've lived here. And I'm married to Ingrid Boydston, who I have the pleasure of actually being here tonight. And we've been married for 26 years. We have one daughter in public school here. And also we are joined by Chuck Morris, an incredible veteran who is a treasurer in the campaign. So I also want to let you know that I've served on the city council twice. The first time was a 16-month appointment, and then the second time was a 4-year elected term. I am uniquely qualified to be on the city council due to the fact that I have worked in the private sector, I have worked for the government, and I have worked in the nonprofit sector for the last 20 years. I manage the Canyon Theater Guild. I've also owned small businesses. Every major improvement that I ran on 6 years ago for council is being built. The Sheriff's Station, the Canyon Country Community Center, thanks to this group and Al Ferdman for pushing that, and the Senior Center. I get things done. I'm an independent. I am proud to say that my commissioners were from both political parties because this is supposed to be a nonpartisan office. I listen to everyone that comes to me and try to solve your problems. I work long hours to try to make sure that happens and that things are brought before the council. A couple of things that I got rid of that were not good for Santa Clarita were red light cameras and digital billboards in open space. But there's a lot of work to be done. The traffic's terrible and it's getting worse. The mayor and council member McLean both voted to allow your traffic to get worse. We need to build more roads. We need to increase public safety funding, including building a year-round homeless shelter, because that is a safety issue and a human issue. We need to obtain new supplies of clean water as well as more recycled water. And I am the candidate that can and will get that done. I will be honored to have your vote November 6th.
Questions? Questions? Don't be shy. Oh yeah, no, it's okay. You know, he doesn't bite.
No. It's the same question that I asked Logan. So, I mean, in terms of all the housing that is here, and it's out of control. We have the stuff over on the 126 that's being developed. It just seems to keep constantly just. What are your thoughts with regards to curtailing? I know we do need housing, but affordable housing for one, and also making sure that it is that our water and our infrastructure with our roads is addressed first before we end up. And aside, another question too. Where currently the council that's seated ended up accepting money, which was totally legal, but it was you asked. I remember. You asked, Alan ended up asking the moral aspect of it, and it was not addressed at all. It was solely addressed by the lawyer stating the Reform Act, the California Reform Act. But, what are your thoughts in general about that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, that was 4 questions. It will take me about 10 minutes to do, but I'm going to do the housing one first since that was what you answered. As long as I've lived here, there were hardly any people in the valley, okay? There were only 2 tiny housing developments, and they hadn't built North Oaks yet. So I have seen a lot of change over the years, and a lot of good change. However, we are overcrowded because we have built too many houses for the roadway infrastructure. We have built too many houses for the amount of water. And so what we need to do is we need to do first a traffic study, a peak hour traffic study, to find out where those bottlenecks are and how many roads we need to build. And we have not finished building the road network, which we should be working very hard on, so that we have enough roads to service those houses. And until we do that study, until we can say, we need to make sure that this road is built for these houses before we allow more houses to be built. The second thing is the water that you address, very important. The water is, once again, Los Angeles ran out of water in 1903, and then Mr. Mulholland went and got some more, and then it ran out of water again in the 70s, and so the State Water Project, we brought a lot more water in, but we ran out of water again. Otherwise, we would not have to ration the water that we have. So what we need to do is make sure we have enough water supply before we build new houses.
Time.
And if anyone wants to expand on that, you can ask me another question related. I'll be happy to go on.
Good idea.
Chair Gilmore. So what do you think the City Council should do to lower our city's carbon footprint more than it's already doing?
Cher, thank you. It's a good question, and it's good to see you again this year. I thought about you when I was thinking about this forum, because the one thing that we can do, because the largest generator on the carbon footprint as far as the fouling the air up has to do with the number of cars that are on the street. And when cars are idling and stop and go, that's when it's putting out the most. The best thing we can do would be increase the traffic flow. So as I said in my statement, Mayor West and Council Member McLean, when we redid the general plan, they voted to allow your traffic to move slower. They actually voted for it. I fought very hard against it because I knew this would come down the pike, and now the chickens have come home to roost, and now we have this problem. So the best thing we can do, the easiest thing we can do as far as our carbon footprint is to make sure the traffic flows again, because that is the biggest contributor. Obviously, we have to look at other ways to use our natural resources efficiently, but that's number one. So I'm very disappointed in the council with regard to this, and I don't think that the people, their record is known. I don't think people actually know that, but they should know that. We need to replace council members that have been there for 20 years and 16 years and 16 years. There should be term limits. I am for term limits. I asked it to be put on the agenda when I was in last. They would not put it on the agenda. They wouldn't put a lot of things on the agenda, and I can speak to those if other questions are asked, but I'm out of time.
Well, on the subject of roads, I hope you would be in favor of opening the closed roads that we paid for, and they are closed with the gates, Calgrove, Maple Street, some others. It was favors to someone that lived in neighborhoods, as I understand. That, I think, is something that would help flow in our community. And it hasn't hit us yet, I don't think, but there's federal programs going around to cities, and I would like you to see if you would oppose the dieting of roads. They're taking the streets, the major streets, with 2 lanes each direction and going to 1 lane in direction. They've already done it in Lancaster. It's a total failure, and it plugs up all the traffic. And we think that you ought to oppose that and say no to the federal funds hooked to it so we can get the traffic flowing. Also, I would like you to be in favor of, or see if you'd be in favor of, placing new roads on the Vermite property, because you save a lot of funds on pushing cleanup for roads that go across that area. So we could save
your question is, Ed,
and we could get the roads. Thanks for the interruption.
No, thank you.
Okay, I'll try to do that quickly. Yes, I think the road diet is a terrible. Everywhere they've done it, what it does is they say, yes, but we're making it so that the bicyclist and people will walk. But this is Santa Clarita. We're in a suburb. You can't just walk to the Metrolink station when you live up in the mountainside. And that's the whole of our valley. So what the road diet does is it sounds good. It sounds wonderful. Bicyclists will use it. But the number of bicycles that you have on the road is so small compared to the amount of cars you have. No, let's stick to making bike tracks that are separate from the road. It's safer. We've got them. We're still building them. We're going to build more. I am in favor of that, but not in favor of road diet at all. With regard to, I'm thinking there was
the chained off streets.
Closing streets. Yeah, every single street needs to be looked at in the valley, and whether it's been closed off, why it's been closed off, and what are the ramifications if you try to open it. Because what's happened is major traffic patterns have been changed in the valley to accommodate for the fact where they have closed some of them. So they've made some other decisions with regard to the other roads. So it's not a simple question, but nothing should be off the table when it comes to traffic flow. Because if we don't do some things for traffic flow, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, good evening. I'm John Seamus. I'm a resident here on and off for about 37 years. I go to Europe a lot, and I know that a lot of people are working now in the Santa Clarita Valley here. One of my favorite cities over there is Amsterdam, and they have a very good transportation system in the city with narrow gauge rail cars. They're not raised up. They're at the same level as the street. What are your thoughts about getting people out of cars and having a expanded rail system throughout the city between Canyon Country, Valencia, the industrial center where the job locations are, and getting people out of their cars?
Okay. I love cities where they have public transport that works. Okay? And those cities are really high-density cities. That would be like San Francisco. Okay? And downtown LA is getting to that point where they actually have enough people riding the subways and riding the bus lines, riding the Orange Line because of the density of people. And believe it or not, we have a couple of 100,000 people here in Santa Clarita and about 250,000 in the whole valley, but the density is not high enough to support the cost of trying to put in light rail. I love light rail. Denver's doing a great job, and LA is doing a great job, but you have to have the ridership for that to happen, and then you actually also have to have the connectability from people's houses. You see, since we're all in the canyons here, you have to get down to that flat area. We don't have the density in that flat area to actually make that work in this valley at this time. I will put it that way. And the other thing is you say, we got to get people out of their cars. Yes, but they don't want to get out of their cars. And so it's wonderful. It would be great if everybody walked. It would be great if people got on their bicycles. But they don't do it. So you can't pretend that they're gonna do it. This is the fallacy of saying, oh, we'll build high density near the rail when only 10-20% of the people ever use that for transportation to work. So what you've done is created a whole bunch of houses where 80% of the people have cars that are going to be on the streets because you didn't build enough streets. So.
Well, they're a lot healthier too, because they do a lot more walking.
Yes. They are absolutely. That's absolutely true.
Are you guys going to raise the car emissions tax in order to get people out of their cars and have the mileage tax implemented onto cars in order to get people out of the cars for, I believe it's Agenda 21. So I just wondering, what are you guys' thoughts on that? And as far as the water rationing goes, are you guys going to implement it by 2025, 50 gallons of water per household? And I think they passed it by 2025. So are you guys going to implement that also? Is that one of the deals that's going on?
Okay, I'll answer that question. Not on the council, but I hope to be. And if on the council, no. Actually, those type of taxes and that type of tax that you're talking about is done at a statewide level. The city of Santa Clarita has never and wouldn't be putting that kind of a tax on. I certainly would be opposed to that. To the water question, I am not for water rationing. I'm not. 75% of the water in this state flows from the rivers flows right into the ocean. Okay. I spoke about how we didn't have water until we brought more water here to Southern California. And if you're going to allow here in America people to live here, more people here in here in Los Angeles area, you need to bring more water here. Yes, you need to recycle every drop you have. That's true. But you also need to bring more water here. You need to do more water storage. I mean, The water underground here supplies about 50% of our water needs, and about 50% of our water needs are supplied by buying water that we bring from someplace else. Okay, so the idea that we could, if we didn't do any irrigation and any outside irrigation whatsoever, we didn't have any trees or plants or anything, we could cut. Yeah, we could cut our water usage, but we could not cut our water usage enough unless you did extreme rationings, especially in a drought situation. And that's the issue.
Time. I think we have enough time for one question if we get the question out.
So, Chair Gilmore, so what would you do with the Bermite area?
That's a good question. Yeah, the Bermite area, that area should, hopefully they keep saying it's going to be cleaned up. But the key is, when they say it's cleaned up, will the state take the liability on the water? Okay? The land's going to be cleaned up down to a certain level. Okay, there are some areas where they're not going to be able to build housing. It's already around down where their swap meet is because there's VOCs that come out of the ground. So that's not a good idea. I don't think housing's a good idea there. Okay, I think that we should be building industrial, light industrial, commercial. I think we should be looking for a major person to take that land. A tech company, Google or Amazon, that type of company, to come in and take that whole area and develop it into a giant campus with great, high-paying, clean jobs. And that's what that area should be used for. As far as the roads, we have to build the roads across there. We should have done it yesterday. When I was on the council, I actually got them to do the next segment and design it. And they said, well, we don't design yet because no developers come in to tell us what they want there. And that's backwards. We need to be taking leadership roles to get the roads built. That Magic Mountain Parkway that goes across, the Wiley Canyon, the one that I helped to get designed, half of it. The EIR should be being done right now. But there are very politically powerful people that do not want that to go through, that live along the road down there on Wiley Canyon. That's a whole, I don't have time for that to answer this question, but there are reasons that it's not built. But it needs to be done, and we also need to do Santa Clarita Parkway. They are major roads. Without them, our whole road system, our whole traffic system is going to crunch to a halt. There's 3 segments that are in failure grade already in the valley, right now.
Thank you, TimBen.
Well, let's give TimBen a big hand.